Good evening and welcome to Knox Makers Tuesday evening show and share. We do this every Tuesday at 7 o'clock. People come in, show us what they've made, show us successes. They may show us something that is in progress, and we may see a failure or two. And we encourage that because that's how we learn how not to do that again. So without any further ado, we will start looking at some of these. First, we have Joe, who is going to show us something that is out of this world. Where's Joe? He's not here. He's out of this world. Okay, we'll move Joe to the bottom of the list then. Now we actually have Joe and Aliki, who are going to show us something that has something to do with stained glass.
Okay. Do you have any of the starting things?
You go ahead.
Hello.
Oh, wait.
I don't know.
Plus.
It's a lot.
There we are.
Okay, so we took Sean's first stained glass class a couple of weeks ago, and that's, I think, all of us. If I see, that's the back of his head, and yep, that's all of us there, and we had a really great time learning how to make stained glass, how to work all the different parts. So we really, I really enjoyed it, and I've talked to pretty much everybody else that did it, and they all really enjoyed it. So, just gonna say put that there, and I'm just gonna move that for a second. I took a few, neither of us remembered we'd had cameras for most of this process, so I'm sorry, we're getting better at that. But I did take a couple of pictures, so that's, and that's an important image to look at. That's what it's supposed to look like. So, you know, I had fun. I picked my glass. I had traced out on a different sheet of paper this pattern, glued everything with fun. It was glue sticks. Glued the paper there. I should have also numerically numbered these so I could put them back exactly the way I cut them, but I like the challenge hard mode. So I didn't do any of that. I just numbered all the pieces that were the same as if I couldn't tell because they weren't the same shape. So mistakes were made, but this is why you learn, right? So after I got everything cut, it's a weird picture because I had to take it at an angle so the glare wouldn't hit it, so I apologize. But basically this was me trying to put my puzzle pieces back together where I realized that knowing exactly which ones were the ones cut next to them would probably have been very helpful here, but it was going to turn out. It was okay. And then I remade, I don't know if you noticed, but this is missing a center piece there. The original one I cut was hilariously too small. So I had to, at this point, make a new one, which I did, and I just used, you know, the space there and cut a new circular piece. And so after that, you have to foil all the pieces, which is kind of neat. You take a 1/4 inch for the pieces of glass that we were using and basically outline the whole edge and kind of pat that down real good. Pin it all together on this cork board and really prepare it for the soldering process, which I'll show you. This picture is basically what it looked like most of the way through. For those paying attention, those giant gaps are not supposed to be there. There's going to be, I think what Sean said, what tin hides the sin, but not this much sin. So we have what I made here. So it is still really pretty. It catches the eye. It's, of course, very, you know,
Let the light come through it, yeah. There you go.
let's try to get it out a little bit. I don't know if you can see any of the light coming through it or not. But it's very crude, obviously. I got better on the one side. Clearly learned while I was doing this. But it is really pretty. I do intend to try to do something with these edges to make them look and feel less violent. They're very pointy. So The lesson I think I learned from all this is, as a beginner, don't pick one that has 400,000 edges. It looks cool on paper, but it looks less cool without as much knowledge, so I'll let you show yours.
We get 6 minutes. There's 2 of us. I don't have very many pictures or anything like that. This is my process one, too. I did number them. I wanted to make a rainbow spider web, is the idea. So I didn't have quite so, like I used orange and yellow together sort of thing, violet and indigo, who knows the difference anyway. Anyways, that was the layout for mine. And then we came back yesterday to finish them up. It took us a few days to do all these. So I brought my boy out, and he got firsthand experience with a little bit of soldering, which is fun too. It's my oldest son, Joey. And the finished product is pretty nice. I was happy with it. It turned out like a nice rainbow spider web. With mine, I wanted something that had, I wanted to learn the process. It was my first time doing it, so I wanted something that had straight lines and curved edges, so I could learn how to do, like the whole mess. And then I made little stainless steel hooks and soldered them in there too, so I could hang them from the window. But that's our stuff.
Could you each hold them in front of that projector and we could maybe see the light shine?
Maybe.
Yeah, there you go. I see it.
By the way, I had a gap so bad that I had to add a whole nother piece, guys.
Oh, I just thought that was the stem.
That's what we're calling it, but amongst us gals on the whole internet, I figured, I'd fess up. It's still gonna look really pretty in the window. Of course, I'm a welder, I can solder straight lines. It was my first time soldering, so,
Gotta ask, how long did it take you to make those?
3 sessions of an hour
Oh,
and
the
a half.
first time we did it for
each.
about 3 hours, but there was a lot of watching and learning and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would say about maybe 5-6 hours total.
We all learned a lot in the class. I think all of us learned how to be successful in doing it.
Yeah.
So,
How did you cut arcs?
you get it as close as you can with the rotary tool knife cuttery thing, and then you have a nibbler, basically a pair of pliers that you can kind of nibble away at it to get a little closer, but really in the end you end up grinding them in. We've got the grant we were awarded last year got us some really nice glass making equipment, and so there's a wet grinder basically. It pumps water onto the stone the whole time, and you grind your shapes in there like that to get it right where you want it.
Are you using an electrical type solder or is there a heat solder?
No, it's just that, yeah, regular soldering iron and electrical solder. Well, it's more like plumbing solder, I would guess. Yeah, it's about that thickness. It's not really small. It's got some diameter. Yeah. Oh.
Was it solid core solder, or did it have a flux core?
No, there's a flux you brush onto it. Yeah, there's no flux in the solder. Yeah. Cool. Thank you very much.
Very nice work. I'm looking forward to taking that class. Looks like a lot of fun. Forgot to mention, if you do show something large, do it on this side. That way Billy can catch it with the camera. Does anybody have arachnophobia? I need to give a warning. Okay, good. Then Thea is going to show us some scrap art.
Okay, this was what I walked out of Joe's scrap metal art class a couple of months ago. And he's really rough in some places. You can see his face. Some of the leg joints. So I cleaned him up with my Dremel. And this is the material because I wanted to make him into a pincushion. So he's sitting on the stretchy black velour, which is actually from Goodwill for $2.99. It was a pair of pants I sacrificed. Wool felt, half-inch thick. Wool roving, which is how I got it domed. And then because this was really stretchy and thin fabric, I have some cotton twill for a different project that I cut a corner off of. So there's the pin cushion separate from the spider after I've got the twill and it's domed and I sewed the bottom, and I'm about to put the black on top of it. And then there you can see how he's much smoother and he's not going to actually snag anything I'm working next to other than his pinchers. He was fun to make. So
How long did he take?
the welding took about 2 or 3 hours in the class because it really was scrap metal art. You'll see when I pass them around, these got 3 or 4 different types of metal in his legs, and I had to find the parts. So by the time we cut them up, ground them, welded it, the first class took 3 hours. And grinding and cleaning up the joints, because it was one of my earlier attempts and I'm not a good welder yet, probably took another hour and a half. And then assembling the pin cushion took about an hour because it's all hand sewn to get the circle and tightened down. So it's just pin cushion on the bottom, and then yes. No, that is waxed thread from leatherworking, so it's got a decent wear and it's not going to snag on anything, but I was still able to sew him on to the bottom washer. Any other questions? Thank you.
I see a spider theme going on here. Since we are approaching that time of year, getting close to Christmas, Tracy's going to show us a tiny ornament.
Makers have to start early for Christmas. You might have noticed the capsule machine in Arts and Crafts where we're trying to fill it for the maker sale, where you can just put whatever you want type of little art in it, and we're going to sell them for 50 cents to whoever wants to. So this is my contribution to that. I made tiny little acrylic ornaments that you totally can't see. Yeah, maybe put it on the... So it's just a raster icon that I downloaded, like 6 or 7 of them, and then cut them out in circles all in a row. They're still in my directory on the laser cutter if anyone wants to just cut out their own, but otherwise they will be in the capsule machine. And you can use them not for Christmas if you don't want to.
Okay, spiders, skulls. What could possibly be next? Rob has mold. Oh, no, wait, it's molds. I'm sorry.
So this year we were talking about the Maker Fair, and we're going to have tents, 10 by 10 tents. and having to do some weights. There's been a lot of discussion about how much weight, well, there's no discussion about how much weight. There's a couple of people that are very solid on 50 pounds per leg on your tent, or 200 pounds total to hold down your tent, which, by the way, I have a theory I finally figured out this morning why when you called all the other fairs and they said, you gotta put 50 pounds. Because if you're gonna leave your tent over a weekend and it's overnight and a big storm comes through, yeah, I can think 50 pounds per leg. If I'm setting up in the morning and taking down in the late afternoon, evening, I don't need 50 pounds on each leg. That's absurd. Because if a storm that big is coming through, I'm looking at it and I'm tearing down long before it gets to me. So I figured I'm gonna do a lot less weight. So one quick story is I realized a 5-gallon bucket filled with water is 40 pounds. 4 of those around your thing, nice and cheap. You can get about $2 for a bucket. I think we said at Fireman Subs, they give away buckets for $2. 4 of those filled to the top with water will give you 40 pounds per leg if you wanted to get some serious weight, and it's real cheap. I still wanted to make at least some concrete ones, so I went and purchased some PVC. Now, I'm getting signals from the side. If you go look for PVC in about a 6-inch to 8-inch diameter, it's about $50 to $70 for a 10-foot piece. It's crazy. But of course, if you go over to the gutter section and you buy PVC downspout, this was $16 and it's 3x4 for a 10-foot piece. So a quick calculation of a rectangle, I had an 80-pound bag of concrete all ready for a project I never actually did, sitting in my garage. Quick calculation says 22 inches, or cut it at 2 feet, and you get 4 of those. And so I'll show you on my phone here, me setting up to do that. So here we go. You can see the 4 tubes right here. That's 4 of these cut to 2-foot lengths. That's my dry concrete, and then you'll see in other pictures the eye bolts. But the bottom of the 4 tubes is just taped to a piece of aluminum I happen to have. You could tape it to a piece of wood or whatever, because my theory is it's going to release from this. I sprayed the inside of these tubes with silicone spray so that the concrete can set up and then release. I'm hoping it'll just slide out, take the tape off and everything. Hello, my phone just go to sleep on me. It's my granddaughter. So the idea is, concrete, of course, is wet. I want the water to go away because concrete doesn't dry, it cures from the water. So I want the concrete to go in here. Any water that's going to accumulate at the bottom is okay to come out, so tape is fine to come out. It should be something that handles. I used HVAC metal tape so that the water wouldn't bother it. Hello, stay up. And then you can see I just wrapped them in packing tape to hold them together. One of the other things I realized as I set this up, wherever I put these and fill them with concrete is where they're going to have to stay for about a week. It takes 2 days to set, 28 days to cure, but a week is going to be pretty solid. So, because that piece right there is going to be 80 pounds when I'm all done, and you're not going to pick it up and move it around without destroying it. So you can see now, I think in my next picture, there's from the top. You can see I cut little grooves in the top here, and here are my bolts. So these are eye bolts. These are, specifically, these are 3/8 inch, 8-inch eye bolts that I just picked up at the hardware store. One mistake that I made is I bought, they came with the nuts and I bought fender washers, but you see the red tape, I should have bought another nut for all of these, because when you push these into the concrete, the washer's going to slide up on you. And so I realized, oh, wait a minute, I can't put the nut on the other side though, because when you lift the concrete, it'll just pull it right on out because I don't have the washer. I just used some duct tape I had to hold it enough so that when I pushed it into the concrete, the washer would stay about where it was supposed to be. This is some PEX pipe. I was going to use a dowel or whatever would work just as well. I've mixed up the concrete, slopped a little bit over the side. That's now the concrete wet. And then I filled the tubes. And when you fill the tubes, if you look, the tops are all liquidy water because the concrete is heavier than water. It displaces the water. The water comes to the top. And what you do is, I just used the palm of my hand and just kept beating the side of these tubes as I was filling it, and it slumps the concrete lower and lower into the tube and packs it so I have no air gaps. So I just kept beating around. I put some trowel some more in, beat it around, and just kept hitting it until I had it low and to my calculated height, which is almost perfect, my 22 inches for an 80-pound bag of concrete. And then there it is, I think, the next day. One of the things is, a couple hours later I went back, there was a lot of water sitting on top. You want your concrete to stay wet but not saturated because it'll get flaky on the top. So I actually ended up drilling some holes in the side right at the 22-inch mark. You see a little bit of the ding from the drill bit, just to drain some of the extra water off the top. It was gonna stay wet enough, which is what I wanted. And then this was actually just before I headed over here today. You can see it's all cured up. These are reasonably solid. But again, I'm not gonna try to unmold these at least for a week, which would be about Friday. And again, you can see my PVC tube that I put in here to hold these exactly at the same height on every single one. All this should slide out. These should unmold. If they don't unmold, I could just run a split on them and they'll pop out. And I'm hoping I have a nice formed tube of concrete. Each one of these, again, is gonna weigh 20 pounds, because I got 4 of them, and that'll give me 80 pounds of total weight on my tent, which is 20 pounds each. Reasonably easy to carry, 20 pounds, as opposed to 50 pounds. I'm not sure how you're gonna carry a 50-pound weight from your car for each leg. That just seems like crazy numbers. So that was my, my concrete project.
So what would your total weight be, or total price be?
So it was $16 for this in a 10-foot section, right? Each of those bolts with nuts and everything was about $2 each. So you're up to about 24. Concrete's about a $4 bag, so about $28. Which is, and then of course the mess of concrete. It's really messy. As a matter of fact, my favorite part is we had just painted some tables a day or two earlier in the driveway that were way over here. And of course, when I was all done, I used the hose to clean up all my messy concrete. And my wife comes home and said, "Why do you have concrete all over my new table?" Because when the water splashes, you see water drops on the table, but of course when the water evaporates, it leaves behind concrete dust. And so I had to go re-hose off all her tables to clean it off. So concrete's just messy to deal with. You saw I did it on a tarp in the driveway just to try to control it, so. Mark?
You might leave that plastic jacket on it to keep the concrete from being too messy and stuff.
I thought about that. Trust me, I thought about that, other than I wanted to have them as molds. That's why I said on my thing the molds. I want to be able to do it again in case I need more. I'm thinking they make nice molds. If I did it right, I wet the concrete a little extra. I mean, I think I added a cup of water more than I'm supposed to make it a little bit wet, which makes it a little bit smoother. And when I pat the edges, I expect that I will be very smooth against this, and it won't break apart. I may have a gap or two that'll be bad. But no, I had thought about that too. My wife was like, "Why would you bother taking it off?" It's because I want to make molds out of them. The problem is I don't have molds for anybody else that wants to do it, because I need a week for mine to set, right? We should have started this months ago, because mine shouldn't really be used for a month. I should have let them sit in those for 28 days on the concrete is normal for a full cure of concrete. Actually, concrete doesn't cure for years, but a really solid piece will be about 28 days. But after a week, it'll technically be usable, so.
So maybe we start with pickle buckets for this one, and then October do the cement ones?
After mine, and then I should have some molds, and I'll also be able to tell you rather easily how easy the mold came off. Because again, spraying the inside with silicone, I'm hoping just makes them slick enough that, you know, I just kind of wiggle them a little bit, and the concrete at that weight just slides right out of this tube. And you know, I'm ready to go again with 4 more. And what's nice is an 80-pound bag of concrete's a hassle to deal with, but it's one bag, 4 weights, and you're done and clean up, right? Set your little things in there and, you know, let it cure for a week, so. No, that was actually PEX plastic. So you could use a dowel would be better to carry around, like a T-handle. But yeah, you're right. I need something. I actually think I have 1/2-inch bolts in my basement. That's a great idea. Just put them across 2 of them, and then I can carry it like a handle. Still be 40 pounds. I don't think I'm gonna move all 80 in one lug, but that's a good way to move to them quick and easy. Hey, Brian. Yeah, one of the discussions I said I was gonna do is actually weld up some rebar into a T-handle and put a hook at the bottom, but that takes extra work and I'm notoriously lazy when it comes to wanting to get it done. So I didn't bother, I just got eye bolts for $2, so. Anything else?
People haven't done it yet, there's a bunch of brake rotors in the scrap metal pile in metalworking. They're heavy, they're dense, they're small, they even have holes in them already that are tired of
Yeah, I mean, you can use all sorts of things. Yeah.
Don't just have all the scrap stuff that's laying everywhere.
Yeah, you gotta be careful is that those would be good, but you don't wanna go taking steel out of the welding area because you wanted weight. Yeah, so, yeah, weight is weight, and to be honest, I already know at these at 20 pounds, if I have a wind that's gonna move my 10 and 20 pounds, I have lots of other issues besides the weights being moved, because that storm is pretty heavy, and I should be tearing down and putting things away, because that's a pretty bad storm already, so. All right? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Rob. So, you're right, we'll start making these for the next Makers Market. I still don't see Joe anywhere. He must have had to leave. So we will move on to somebody that finally has something with the right word in the description. Tom has some stairway lights. Finally some lights.
This is the second time I've shown anything, and I'm just as nervous. This is a schematic. Anyway, I lived here in the 80s and 90s, moved back about a year and a half ago. So the new house, it has a stairway right inside the front door, and it's very dark at night. So I decided to light it up. The whole thing. I mean, I got these things at Home Depot. They have a light sensor and a motion sensor in them. So if it's dark and detects motion, it'll turn on, and it'll turn off in about 20 seconds. So I got two of those, one for the top, one for the bottom, and then let's see if I can plug this in. I don't know if you can see this or not. I have a 16-foot LED strip to go in from top to bottom. So these are not electrically connected. There's just opto couplers. So when one of the lights is on, this is on. If both have to be off for this to go off. If both are on or one of them is on, this will. Yeah. It takes a while to reset. Anyway, I added these switches here to simulate. Uh-oh. Sorry. I did that last time. That's a disaster. Oh. Anyway. So the two closet lights, about each, and then this strip was about $8, but everything else was just out of my junk box. I took a fair amount of experimental, see if I can. Yeah, I can dim it down. And I think I'm gonna need that. I'm sorry. I just mumble. I apologize. So that was sort of an afterthought to dim it down. That's just a 555 timer there. And then it's, the two lights are kind of wired into the reset of the 555. And then the 555 drives a power MOSFET, which turns on this. So these are still battery operated, but I'm thinking about powering the whole thing with this box. This box is way oversized, but I reused it because the previous project, it was a landscaping power supply and it blew up or melted down. Anyway, so I reused that box. Anything else? Now I have to install it. So that's going to be challenging. I don't want it shining up in my face. So I want it down on the stairway, so I'll have some kind of shield that won't be too bright. And I think this is mainly a spouse override. She's not going to. Spouse override? Yeah. Anyway, that's it.
So you designed the circuit to be able to turn on the light strip when one of these comes on?
Yeah, the optocouplers, it's just an LED and a phototransistor inside an IC, so there's no electrical connection, but I just tapped in across the LEDs of this, which was neither terminal was at battery terminal, at plus or minus. So I almost had to use an optocoupler, but it worked. I mean, it just, and then the 555, that was, I almost didn't do it, but then I realized that was going to be too bright. So that was some trickery. You had to add an extra diode to get a full, essentially a 0 to 100% duty cycle for low dim, very bright. So, yeah, I guess that's it. Yeah, it was a lot of. I was just going to say that a lot of my time was just finding the parts, because I'm not organized. I didn't want to spend a lot of money on it, so. You're going to have to fix the projector, sorry.
Thank you, Tom. We appreciate it. And that was my favorite. If you don't know, I like light. So, I can't help it. I like light. Last but not least, unless we have somebody that didn't make the list, I'll ask about that in a moment. Brian has some postcard stuff.
Hello, everybody. I had a few minutes extra today, so I came in and did something. I was at one of the hobby shops, and I happened to find this watercolor book, and it is 4 inches by 6 inches. What I like about that is that's like the largest possible size you can have and still be a postcard. So my idea was to be able to make postcards out of them. Well, the back of all postcards have kind of a certain format to them. And I wanted to be able to just do that simply with a template, so I came in and went to the laser cutter and Inkscape and whipped me up a quick little template for it. And then first one was a little too narrow for my lines to fit a pin through, so went back in and did it again and made these all wider. And boom, got a simple little template. You just lay it on there and trace out your lines, and you've got an instant postcard. Easy enough to do. That file is also in my folder on the computer in there if anybody was interested. So that's really all, just something simple and easy. Something I cranked out today.
Will you send me a postcard?
Maybe. It requires some of my drawing skills, which is like pretty close to stick figures, but yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Did anybody have something? Yes, sir, Michael? You have something? I do, yeah. Do it.
Won't take very long. Hello, everyone. It's been 2 months since my last confession. So I have a very quick topic. It is on using the laser cutter to etch metal. The method involves spraying a thin coat of molybdenum on the metal, the clean metal, and then letting the coat dry, then running the laser cutter at high intensity. And the heat pretty much, I think, fuses or builds up. I don't think it actually cuts into the metal. I think it's an additive process. And you get what appears to be a very durable and high contrast marking. So I think it's known to some people. Some folks were not very surprised when they saw it, but for me it opens up a lot of possibilities. So I'll show you guys a few examples of what we've done. So this is my square. How do you focus this thing? I'm sorry, yeah.
Here, the plus and minus will go in and out.
All right.
Put your hand on it.
So yeah, so that's the etch over here. I have to play around with the settings on it just because I think it can be a bit more uniform, but without the moly coat, that's not possible. I have another example over here, which is it's a bit difficult to see. It looks a lot better in person. You guys want to see it? You can pass it around. There you go. So yeah, it's there you go. If anyone wants to etch metal, you can use this technique. I'm going to leave my very large bottle of moly spray by the cutter. I have no use for it other than etching. Okay, thank you very much.
Is it just a moly lubrication type spray?
It is.
I tried some of that, couldn't get it to work. I got some, what's the other one called, Theramark or something?
Yeah, that's the expensive stuff.
Yeah.
I haven't tried that.
I tried one of the little bitty ones. I tried it on brass, and I still can't get it to work. So I may have to holler at you, say, what am I doing
Yeah,
wrong?
sounds good. And then here's one other one over here. So yeah, it works on a variety of metals. So
What metal is that? Is that steel?
this is a Scandinavian knife metal. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Very good. All right. Thank you.
I'm glad to see that works. I never could get it to work. So, anybody else? All right, there's Joe. Come on up, Joe. We moved you to the bottom. I hope that's okay. We missed you in the beginning.
I have several things to show. My wife's a quilts and sews, so and her quilting group keeps me quite busy making things, but also have a couple other things to show. One of the things that's really popular with her quilting group is I make what we call a spool keep. Basically a pin cushion, but the way it's cut, you can lay your spools and your bobbins in it and they don't roll around. So here's one, and where's the minus? See how much farther it'll go out. There we go. This is turned with ambrosia maple, and you can see the little holes here. That's from the beetle that causes the coffee staining from a fungus. But I just finished a little one in the last few days. Been away from wood turning for a little bit because a little issue with my arm. But here's a little ladybug. And this one's zebra wood. Let me get to the main thing I wanted to show. I like making unusual things too. One of the things that I got into making jewelry, and went to a place to get some wood chips for landscaping. And I asked the guy, do you ever get any unusual looking woods? And he said, well, I got a couple of pieces over here. And so he gave them to me. And it's a burl. It came off of, I think it's maple. So I made some earrings. And grain really shows on that. But then I also, another thing I make, and as I put on my description, you know, a little bit out of this world, is make some jewelry. There's a necklace I made for my wife. And here's some earrings. Those are meteorites. They came from a meteorite field in Argentina called Campo del Cielo, which translates to Field of Stars, if I remember right. The impact crater was about 5,000 years ago, and they're iron meteorites, so a magnet will definitely stick to these things. And I've made quite a few earrings and necklaces and stuff out of them, and they're unusual, so it's been a lot of fun making things like that. One of my hobbies is astronomy too, so if you ever hear somebody saying something about pushing glass, I've ground some telescope mirrors before. And you know, in the machine shop, you're dealing with you know down to the millimeters or tenth of millimeters on grinding. Try getting down to wavelengths of light. So I actually have a machine that I made that I can put blanks on, add use different grits and start out with something like 40 grit to 80 grit, and then go on down to, you actually get down to what's called cerium oxide. It looks like flour, and you polish everything wet till you get down to that stage, and then you're using a tool that you coat with pitch, pine tar basically, and to finish polishing out the mirror. I've got a friend in Nashville. He ground a 25-inch mirror. So, yeah, and of course we nicknamed the scope Rainmaker, because every time he tried to bring it out the first year he made it, it rained that weekend. Around East Tennessee, if we have an astronomical event, it rains.
How do you order meteors?
Yes, I got.
Just go online and say, look for.
I got these off of eBay. And, oh, another thing too. Those who sew will, or quilt will understand this one. In fabric acquisition road trip, and the short definition of it. This is what's called a clapper. If you sew a block for a quilt together, and you want to iron the seams flat, you iron it, set this on top, and it presses it and holds it flat till it cools. This is unfinished wood, so any steam from your iron gets absorbed into the wood. I like to engrave mine with text and stuff on the front of it. You would not believe how many of these I have sold in the last 2 months. And then this one definitely fits for somebody who quilts. Anyway, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Joe. That's terrific. Cool stuff. I do want to remind everybody about the Makers Market coming up. Yay! All right. On June 11th, we're getting there, folks. It's time to promote. Make some things for the capsule machine so that we'll have it filled up. But the most important thing at this stage is to get the word out. If you saw my post on Mattermost today, we've got over 300 members. If every person posted something on their social media, for those of you that are social, I found out that Rob is not social, and he will tell you all about that. But if everybody posted something, we would have, what, 400, 500, 600 impressions out there in the ether to let people know what's happening. There are also some 8.5 by 11 small posters out in hospitality. You can ask your favorite, whatever business you go to occasionally or regularly. Say, hey, mind if I stick one of these on the window? There are bookmarks out there. Pass those out. If you go to a craft show of any kind, let people know that they need to come to this one. So it is time. We're also doing press releases to the local media and just doing all that we can to get the word out. So keep it up. For those of you that have said they will volunteer, don't worry, we haven't forgotten about you. You're on the list, and you will know very soon what kind of chore Aliki's going to give you. I'm going to blame it on her. Chores, yeah. It won't be chores. It's all going to be fun. But I do want to thank everybody for your willingness to help. We'll be in touch, and we'll make this thing happen. I'm very excited, and thank you, Aliki, so much for all the work that you have done to make this happen. There are a number of classes coming up. I did not pull the list because all you have to do is go to the website, knoxmakers.org, events, and you can see what's coming up. I know that there are quite a few, so rather than bore you with listing them out, go look and see what you would like to take. They're always terrific. Speaking of volunteers, if somebody wouldn't mind, since we are a volunteer organization, grabbing the garbage and taking it out to the dumpster if you can find it. It's out there somewhere. It's out there somewhere. And also, it's what? It is closer to the building. You don't have to hike near as far. That's right. Also, we need to check the air conditioner filters and see, probably need replacing there as well. Is there anything I'm missing?
Tours for newbies.
Oh, yes, of course. I do want to welcome all the folks that are visiting here. This is your first time, or even if it's second, third, whatever. If you would like a tour of the shop, find somebody with a red badge. They will be glad to show you around. Yeah, we got a cool place here. And like I always say, we got a lot of cool tools and toys, but the best part is community. We've got a great group of folks here. Laurie's parents are here. Hi, hi, welcome. Thank you for coming to see us, and thank you all visitors. And Joe, you've got something else?
Yeah, I got one more thing I want to show.
Oh, there's something else in Joe's bag.
You get a kick out of this, because I posted on one of the groups I'm on Facebook. You know, I posted the other day on one of my groups. I decided to do a little wood turning. I hadn't been able to because waiting for this to heal up, and I didn't want to get sawdust down inside the bandage. But I said, I did a little bit of wood turning. So I turned a bowl and a goblet. They're here. There's the goblet. There's the bowl. Wow. So, yeah. Just some fun playing with some scrap for a few minutes. You know, the weather's, this weekend was cool, so there was a good chance to get out on the patio, because I got a little small bench lay that I keep on the patio covered up, and got out there and started turning some things. So anyway, I forgot about, I had those in the bag. Just wanted to show them. Okay.
Those are just perfect for Thea's spider. Okay. What else we have? Anything? Am I forgetting anything? Thank you all so much. Thank you for being here. So let's go out in the shop and make something and have a little fun. Thank you all.